Hello. This is the man in suit is bad and weird disclaimer. Please do not skip ahead, but if you really want to, it'll be your loss. Again, this is unscripted. So the first thing I need to say here is that this video is specifically about the Man in the Suit series. If you are here attempting to understand any dramas of Unknowingly, the creator of Man in the Suit, that's not what this is here for. I am just talking about the series. Two, I am not going in slow, pedantic order like many YouTubers do. I think the problem with a lot of people trying to do that kind of formula is that they just think that, oh yeah, if we just go through it slow and slowly analyze every single bit and pieces and complain about it, it will be a good criticism. In reality, none of these people, a lot of these people do not look at like the big picture here of like what they're like reviewing here. So what I will be doing in this video is that I will say an episode or whatever in during this thing. I'm not going to be very like slow paced. This is just going to be, if you already have knowledge of Man in a Suit, you need to watch the series. So if you are trying to watch it, then go do that before you watch this, because if you try to watch this video, you're going to be confused, and then you're going to be like, you're going to try to repeat my talking points. I really don't want anyone to really repeat my talking points. You need to form an opinion on your own. And the other thing here is that, you know, because a lot of people can't form opinions on their own, this creates harassment campaigns. Harassment campaigns are not really going to be welcome here. And so if you do start harassment campaigns, then my hands are scrubbed. My hands are clean. I don't have anything to do with this. If you use my videos, I have nothing to do with this, as I do not condone or support any form of harassment in any manner. And the final thing is that Unknowingly is a minor. I am also a minor. I do not hold any ill will towards Unknowingly, and I try not to say this, but like it's kind of common sense not to do that kind of stuff. Like, go after him, right? He's just a kid, right? It's whatever. He'll get better at what he does. He'll grow up. It's a whole thing. But this is currently about what he's doing now with Man in a Suit, and so I have no interest in covering any of his dramas or anything like that. Like, I don't need that in my life. Other people will do it, and they'll make bank, but I'm here to talk about the series itself. And the final thing I need to say here, not do, say here, is that since this is actually about the main series of Man in a Suit, this will not cover like any supplementary material, if that's the word. I will not, like, unknowingly on his Twitter page, when he does all this hyping up about his own series or whatnot, I do not talk about that or interviews or anything in these videos. This is just the main content only. So with disclaimers out of the way, which is way too long for no reason, I hope you enjoy. The Man in the Suit is bad and weird. If you like it, subscribe, I guess. I mean, but that's all. Thank you for listening and enjoy this video. After the Suit Mason Childs fell off the face of the earth, never to be seen again, came The Man in the Suit. Created by Unknowingly, he has gained internet fame for his horror web series. Internet reactions permeate his sphere of influence. Fan art is made of the titular character Godzilla as a decrepit, malformed zombie. Power scaling videos comparing Goji to Springtrap, and bloody death matches to see who is the strongest walking corpse of fiction have popped up. His history has been praised to the utmost degree, heralded as a high-level work of the analog horror genre, and transcends mediocrity. It's scary and disturbing, thrilling and epic. It's even someone say a Godzilla media. It's not mine, though. I personally disagree. The man in the suit doesn't exist in our reality, but another with several key differences. The first is that Ishiro Honda goes unnamed, and there is a co-director that also goes unnamed. The suit actor Haruo Nakajima goes unnamed, and so on, save for the King Kong actor Shoichi Hirose. Shoichi does not portray Ghidorah, but implies that most people who are acting the monsters and most of the crew are the same people. Immediately, the first thing that stands out in the series is that the implications, regardless of its alternate reality status, make this insanely offensive. Because Shoichi Hirose is the suit actor of King Kong, then Haruo Nakajima is the actor of Godzilla, and then so on. Turning a famous, world renowned man loved by many into a literal raving zombie Godzilla maniac is not the best way to go, but turning him into an anti American caricature through Godzilla is even dumber. The series chooses to frame a post imperialistic Japan as a backdrop solely for who is assumed to be Haruo Nakajima to assemble his personal kaiju Avengers. There is no exploration of a post imperialist Japan, no exploration of Toho itself, which is reduced to be a comedically evil caricature and shell of itself that seeks only profit and torturing of employees because corporations are evil or whatever, because at its core, the series is Orientalist. Orientalism traditionally emphasizes otherness and exoticness in its works. When I refer to otherness, I mean the other from a philosophical standpoint. The other is traditionally someone separate from oneself, which is used consistently in racist and Orientalist frameworks to demonize others that are different from you. This allows for fetishization and exaggeration of an individual or a group of people. The man in the suit fetishizes the Toho workplace and Ishiro Honda's original message, transforming Godzilla from a person and dinosaur to the inhuman zombified monster that cannot be rationalized with or communicated with. In other words, quote unquote Goji becomes inhuman and unknowingly explores an actor in a suit massacring fellow people on set. Unknowingly does not treat any of this as a tragedy, but as a documentary style work where the same thing keeps happening and happening. The end goal of this series is to put down the rabid dog Godzilla, who is the other. Toho in the series serves the same role as Godzilla, faceless and inhuman. They do not make an appearance beyond mentions and orders to continue filming. While every single piece of footage here in every episode would normally be burned and everyone would crap their pants and try to stop the thing after the 1954 incident, it keeps going. By making Toho comically evil, they exaggerate a corporation's amoral stance to weird levels of stupid. This ultimately puts the fictionalized version of the corporation in the same spot where unknowingly is fetishizing the traumatic things that go on at these sets in real life so he can write scenes of Godzilla who has to die for the necessary good in the world. But in 1954, Godzilla dies quote unquote unnecessarily. The corrupt nations of the world essentially forced Serizawa to commit suicide. Also, really? Google translated Japanese? Unknowingly disregards Godzilla's cinematic techniques and eschews it in favor of the many tired analog horror film techniques. He does not try any different techniques to set himself apart from the competition. He does not try much at all to even be accurate or create new scenarios after the initial few. Godzilla is a movie monster with animalistic swagger and supreme power, but in here, he's just a scary analog horror monster. That's what is so disappointing here. The strengths of the medium are not being played to. The Suitmation Trials manages to do better by the bare minimum by goofing off with the traditional creepypasta tropes, and then they suddenly transition to the real world where Godzilla pursues the protagonist. Godzilla NES creepypasta follows the traditional creepypasta tropes and the game's medium to create probably the best Godzilla horror story of all time. Unknowingly, however, doesn't do this. For a simple example, Godzilla Encounter 1962 deliberately builds up towards Godzilla's inevitable breakout. The whole thing results in a massacre where the power goes out and people die. It does not resemble any Godzilla movie or game, but instead it is just Five Nights at Freddy's, right down to the suits, which are explained away by radiation or something turning people into shish kebabs in the suits. On that note, he gets many suit facts wrong for the narrative to progress. While I believe that you should really do whatever you need to push your story along, the man in the suit treats every single suit as a costume. An example is the Mothra suit incident where there is a puppet and the other has the suit actress inside. In reality, it took 8 people to portray the original Martha larva in Mothra 1961, but the ones after were props. It would be impossible for an actress to portray the Mothra larva in Mothra vs. Godzilla, and it seems even more unlikely that her family would be allowed on set during filming day. Unknowingly uses the deaths of the actress and her family as shock value. It's banal and gratuitous violence without thought. Instead of trying to play to the strengths of the suit's histories and leaving Mothra uncorrupted because she was mostly all props, the choice to ignore that and buckle down the same thing that could have been subverted very easily is an example of him disregarding the filmic qualities of tokusatsu as a whole. King Ghidorah is treated the same as Mothra. Despite having a whole different dynamic to the rest of the suits as both a prop and a costume, Ghidorah is simply treated as a costume that has 2 hands that control the necks and the mouths are controlled by leather. In reality, King Ghidorah was portrayed by Shoichi Hirose, who spent hours inside the suit while 7 men controlled the necks with wires and tails. The man in the suit doesn't really care, so they just have Godzilla maul the dude in the suit by vomiting radioactive blood. It's not very compelling to how Godzilla manages to corrupt his enemy this time, they just do the same thing. This is obviously unimaginative and not very scary. Every 1 to 2 years, a Showa Godzilla film was made. The man in the suit is lucky to have this because this means you follow several years of the cameraman who confronts Godzilla. They still manage to botch the fabric of time in this. Godzilla says the Oppenheimer speech in Suit Trial 1958. Oppenheimer did not give his speech until 1965. The fact of the matter is that these little things are not fact checked and the continuity is off. One example of this is the plot reveal of the main protagonist being fired in dorsal extraction is suddenly rectified and made irrelevant when he returns and it's revealed he wasn't fired in the first place, but it's been 2 years since, and because Toho in this series is money hungry, they would have written him off and would have hired another cameraman. Instead, people are like, where were you on the final day of filming? I think this is self explanatory on how insane this plot point sounds. Another example is in the Ghidorah suit incident where the protagonist is able to narrate the ongoings of Toho's operations on set, despite the fact he'd be escorted off the premises because he wouldn't count as an employee anymore because he hasn't shown up for work in like 2 years. If he tried, the extremely heavy security that was added because of the man in the suit's rampages would easily stop him. This is why the main protagonist has a spy, but there is no mention of a spy in this episode, and he only knows the concept art of Ghidorah. This means the entire narration before he says, I will intervene, somehow comes from him, unless the spy was in there reporting the information or someone was telling him what happened before and after and, all the materials. But maybe I'm dumb. I understand that this is supposed to be an analog horror work, but the presentation is middling at best. The format really tries to resemble VHS tapes, but it just looks like a PowerPoint presentation with a VHS filter on it. The pacing is so sluggish because of the deliberate editing drawing out to an absurd degree to create tension. The images are not much better either, following analog horror style visuals. To depict characters and scenes, unknowingly uses diagrams and silhouettes of characters, but this doesn't scream Godzilla, no. It's the same style of every other analog horror. When the diagrams aren't used, the visual appearance of Godzilla is from movie clips or behind the scenes footage that is altered. When the stuff I said before isn't used, he uses AI. Wait, what? The man in the suit has used AI for visuals several times. The thumbnail of Depiction of Growth 1962 uses a heavily distorted AI image of Godzilla. In Rare Newspaper, the images of Godzilla in the streets is AI. Unknowingly only got a full visual team on the Ghidorah suit incident, meaning he never had models of Godzilla or any other monster. If he had a model, he'd have to credit it. The only thing that leads back to this is the usage of AI. His own profile picture prior to the one made by Lyra Horrors is also AI generated. While these are not every single example under the sun, that is just a few. This is the same guy who wants to create an AI analog horror series. And if Unknowingly isn't using anything I just mentioned prior, he's used other people's work. Unknowingly, during his times with less internet fame, had created the man in the suit because of the Suitmation trials. Because he was just starting out but quickly ballooned in popularity, an image of the Suitmation trials Godzilla was used in the Yanger's suit incident. The video was taken down after it was found out and re uploaded with a new image shown by Bush. The harm was already done, though. It was now the man in the suit in the eyes of many. Unknowingly does it again in Rare Newspaper. The drawing that the kid made of Godzilla actually belongs to the fan art of the Suitmation trials, drawn by extension underscore sport 1498. They don't even like the drawing, so they didn't care if it was credited or not, but you get the point. If you're hoping for something more incriminating, sorry, but this is just plain old art theft. The Ghidorah suit incident has an entire team of artists, but the quality still doesn't improve. Visually, it is unimpressive. The chase sequence of Godzilla doesn't even show Godzilla until he's regenerating and on the ground. There's still the same old grammatical errors. It still looks like a PowerPoint with VHS effects. Godzilla biting Ghidorah in the head looks bad and not in a good B movie pulpy way. The same setup and same predictable outcome. Godzilla can't die. One of Godzilla 2014's key moments is Ford Brody trying to give his father a birthday present. Traditionally, in a movie like this, the dad is so hardworking that he forgets about his family and neglects his son. There's another dimension to this, however. He's working so hard to keep the power plant from exploding, he ignores his son half heartedly, not because he forgot, and not because out of apathy, but because he cares so much about the well being of others. He's doing it to keep his family and others safe. When the power plant comes down and his wife is killed, he becomes a crazy but correct man to discover the truth about Janjira's collapse. But Ford thinks his father is insane. He wants nothing to do with his father for a multitude of reasons. He withdraws into the social apparatus, the military, because the pain of losing someone who cared more than his father hurt so much. Ford is not in his son's life because he's repeatedly sent around places, but Ford is still saddled with children, and the children know better. They're connected to the world with toys and understand things better than their parents ever could. When Ford unveils an army man from his pockets and gives it to the kid on the train, he connects with someone who doesn't even know his language. Ford descends into the pit, where he finds the Muto nest. Surrounding him in the nest is an inverted home. The nightmare imagery of the house is clear. It's the nuclear family, quote unquote, stable and wholesome. It's the underlying reality beneath many families. The Mutos are not evil predators who seek to prey on Godzilla. They're a distorted version of us and a distorted version of Ford's family. Ford destroys the nest without a second thought, preventing the end of the world. But when Ford emerges, he emerges a changed man because he overcame the evil in himself. Godzilla acknowledges him. He connects to Godzilla, bridging the gap between worlds. That's why Godzilla, the supposed alpha predator designated by Serizawa, doesn't eat the Mutos, because he's not an alpha predator. He's a monster who battles evil, like on the poster Ford had as a kid. Just one Godzilla work out of the many that grapple with the idea of family or someone close to another. There is a common trend where these two themes stick out consistently in Godzilla, and the man in the suit is no exception. Godzilla works as the last of his kind, a warning to the present. He's a dinosaur, and humanity is at constant risk of becoming just like the dinosaurs, who are extinct. That's the possible nuance that allows for Godzilla to have so many varied interpretations. The man in this suit runs into a problem at first sight. Goji is not Godzilla. The man is not a dinosaur or someone scarred from disfigurement that affirms the connection to Godzilla. The story does not tell us this, but instead chooses to have a man be so obsessed with the diegesis that he becomes a part of it, but he's not actually Godzilla. The series makes it clear that he is insane and not in his right mind, so he calls himself Godzilla and people allow him to. The diegetic narration does not call him Godzilla, but it calls him the man in the suit. Characters say that is not Godzilla, and that Godzilla wouldn't look so malformed. It's all literally looking at a lumbering costume and going, no, that's not Godzilla. And that is what it is to everyone. The second issue is because Godzilla isn't Godzilla, unknowingly had to create a connection to the man and the fictional Godzilla in a story where the man in the suit serves as the last of his kind. The first problem within this issue that crops up is that the man is Japanese. He is not the last of his kind in an ethics sense or a nationalism sense or in a Japan sense because people are still around in Japan. This also includes people sense because he's not from another reality. He's from planet Earth. The second problem is that Godzilla is literally creating a family of his kind, so Godzilla is not quote unquote alone anymore. They're like him now, so the message just fizzles out. Godzilla has always been the last of his kind in a Superman sense. Even when Superman finds other family members, it is still acknowledged that he is the last of his kind no matter what. The third issue with this is that because this is a metafiction styled work, Godzilla is not real in the ARG world and our world. He's a brand, right? No matter if he becomes giant size, that the series implies that he can grow to, he's not really the Godzilla in the films. He's just some dude. Let me just be the first person to say that the formula of the man in the suit is hampering the artists and modelers of this work. As time goes on, since it's nearly going to be a whole year that the man in the suit came out, the biggest problem with the man in the suit is that one is boring, yeah, and the other thing is that the format hurts it. When I talked about the format in the earlier section about the art stuff, about how it looks like a PowerPoint of VHS, the format itself is looks bad, but like how it's presented too is also hurting it. It hasn't improved in quality. It doesn't look good and the writing is still not very good to read. And normally in an analog horror work or web series, someone will improve. It improves over time. But I have not seen any like changes, any improvements. It just looks bad. It doesn't look good. I don't know where the series is going to end up, and I'm not going to really stick around to find out. But I had to get this video out here because, I personally just wanted to talk about it. I've seen a lot of praise for the series, and I've not seen a lot of like criticisms that aren't. Um, I hate this little kid, so this is the video. So thank you for watching. That's all I really wanted to talk about. So bye.